Goon. Back to FixFitness guys headquarters.
I think we're trending up because of the lack of bicep I have.
We're back to our home in Cook Chiropractic offices this week because we want air conditioning because Fat Boy Club inside my house was dying with no air conditioning on. And it's nicer out today, but I was like, nah, man, I'm sweating. And if we started talking squats, I'd probably just start sweating thinking of squats.
Well, it gets you hot and bothered?
No, I'm like, oh man. I start doing the VMO flex in my head, and I'm like, oh, now I'm sweating.
Yeah, squats are one of those things where I don't think everyone should do them. Back squats, that is.
Back squats.
Because everyone should do pistons. Pistons for life.
Yeah.
That's the trend.
We're going to get over what pistons really, how they can really fix a squat, because I could testimony to that after my hip pinching episode.
Follow my man.
Yeah,
my boy Dan Lau. Pistons for life.
Oh, man. He's the piston machine.
That guy does pistons every day at lunch, and I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, he does it more than I do, and I should be the one, obviously, telling everyone to do it. But I'm like, fuck, he's doing it again?
Yeah.
Shit.
Dude, and he's always hitting lats at work.
I started tagging Pistons for life because he tagged it. He's actually doing it. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, I need to be doing pistons.
Yeah, he loves growing those legs. But the reason I think this is a great topic, back squat versus front squat versus low bar versus high bar, like we can do those episodes, but we're just going to start with
a squat with a bar.
A squat with a barbell.
You should not fucking do it.
And you shouldn't do it with a back.
Because the intent, if your goal is... If your sport doesn't necessarily have a back squat in it, like if you're a CrossFitter or a powerlifter, what other sports has a barbell back squat in it? Or maybe if you're under, like your coach and you're following a program, let's say you're a collegiate football player.
Yeah.
Or Olympic lifting is a good one.
Olympic lifting, they'll do back squats to get leg strength. But
if you're like in a high school or college football program, they have you doing back squats. You have to do back squats.
And then they do more front squats too, right? And cleans.
I'm not saying that that's the best way to program them, but my statement, I'm going to stand by it, is people shouldn't do barbell back squats unless you need to do it for your sport or hobby.
Well, the reason I told you in my office, people will be like, the lay person, let's say the 24-hour LA Fitness gym membership guy will be like, don't worry, man. I know my low back hurts, but I don't deadlift anymore. And I'm like, no, that's a great workout for your legs and your lower back and your core. And then I'll ask them right after that, do you back squat though? Oh, of course, on leg day. And it's like, it's always on leg day. Of course I throw back squats in there. And it's like, that's the more complex lift, in my opinion. Like we were talking about, if you deadlift and you get it up to like mid-shin and you don't have it, you feel it somewhere wrong, let go. But if you're in LA Fitness with 3 45s on your back, and you got those metal plates on that aren't bouncing, and you got to bail, you're putting a lot of people at risk, yourself at risk.
It's also less scary deadlifting because the bar doesn't go that high.
Right.
And it doesn't crush you,
There's no axial load on your low back.
The fails on deadlifts are more like passing out or throwing up online.
Yeah.
But back squats, you get pinned under, your knee goes sideways. Getting pinned is probably the most fearful thing for back squatting.
I think
it's scary. It's like, even for me, like going heavy on a back squat, and again, yes, you can have spotters, but that's a fucking mess in all itself.
But in the CrossFit gym, you can do them with bumpers and just bail and let it. But even that is a scary sight and sound when people bail under it.
Yeah, because you have to you're under full tension, and then you have to do a dive motion to hopefully pop that bar off your back.
Let's just say it turns heads in the gym, no matter where you're at, no matter what gym you're at, it turns heads.
Because I think when you buckle, your knee buckles, right, or your hip, mostly your knee. If your knee buckles under like a 1 rep max back squat, it's not going to end well. If that bar's going all over the place, you might get pinned.
So what makes the back squat so complex and so dangerous?
Well, let's go over why people think it's the best lift, king lift, the best lift in the gym, right? The king of all lifts. And the biggest, benefit that people always point to is like, that's the best lift where you can put the most amount of weight on your legs, your back. Like that's how you get the strongest, right? But if let's say you're a jiu-jitsu person or a baseball player, a soccer player, golfer, like why are you going to do a move that is really not functional? And when I say functional, let's break it down. You're not going to use your hips in a squatting motion in any type of sport movement where your shoulder blades are pinched back together and down, because then your whole body works together. So you're already using a whole different set of core muscles and upper body muscles that you would never use in jiu-jitsu.
Right. So your upper thoracic spine has to be in a good posture just to begin with.
If I'm getting off this chair or couch, I'm going to lean forward a little, engage my hamstrings, and my shoulders are rounded forward because I'm probably using my obliques or whatever, if you want to get all nerdy about it. But who the hell in any sport is going to pull their shoulder? I don't like the nerdiness, so I try to limit it. But I pull the shoulder blades back like holding a barbell, whether it's low bar or high bar.
Yeah.
When the fuck is that position even functional in any sport movement known to man?
Not to mention if you come in with a bad upper thoracic kyphosis and you're not engaging correctly, like you're saying.
Nerd alert.
There's the nerd. What's happening to the lower half? Like your lower back.
That's why everything works in a chain, and if you've been following this far, it's like right when you push your shoulders back and what Ian's talking about, and you're getting that arch in the upper back to hold all that weight.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you're activating your lower back muscles. Right. Your upper abs. Your obliques are turned off. Your lower abs are turned off. Then that fucks up the way your hips are moving. Then you're using the wrong part of your legs, you know? It's like there's so much risk for doing a bad back squat. We just talked about it. It's scary. And if you're an athlete training, you're just going to add more weight to the bar, more reps. Right. So you have such a high risk of fucking yourself up on a movement that has no real transfer to the actual fucking sport you play. Let's say, again, we'll take golf. You're never pinching your shoulder. You see a golfer set up, right? They're never pulling shoulders back and down. That's not how the swing works. So you're already fucking that up. So then you want to engage core muscles and leg muscles that you'd use for a squat. That's not going to be the same for the golf swing. Right. So
I don't think most of the lay people that are going to do, and I say lay people in terms of like, I just do a leg day, a back day. They're not following a program. They just throw in squat as a part of their leg day. What are they thinking about where their hips are moving? Or are they thinking about what their legs are feeling?
They're, definitely with, I don't even know what they're thinking. I think they're just following a protocol, right?
My experience, they're feeling it in their quads. They might feel their lower back, so they feel like, oh, this is good. I'm strengthening it. It's not hurting. It's just tight down there afterwards. But I'm like, where are your hips at? Are you hip hinging into your squat? Are you...
No one's thinking about that shit. Get out of here.
You have to, though, right? That's what we're saying is like you have to think that way if you're trying to get better at the back squat.
Well, the thing is, people... I've talked about this recently. You know, I've had it wrong where you're not just trying to get better at the drills, right? Right. So, like, the way your lats work in a deadlift, we tried it. We did a lot of lat pull-downs, bent over rows, but you don't fire the lat that way in a deadlift. Yes. So I'm just getting really fucking good at lat pull-downs and bent over rows. Right. So same thing with the squat, right? If you just do a lot of squatting, you're just, yes, like you were saying, you can focus on all the squat mechanics and get better at the squat. But like you always talk about, what's the intent? Right. Are you just trying to be a world champion back squatter or just keep back squatting forever because you like to? Right. Typically, I would say most people aren't doing the back squat for that reason. They think it's the most functional lift.
They just think like, I'm going to grow my legs with this. Right.
Yeah, usually to be strong for... fill in the blank, hiking, running, surfing, squat, anything.
So if we're saying our purposes...
CrossFit even.
Our purposes are FixFit for FixFit reasons. It's back squatting for CrossFit, running, hiking, lifting up your kids. Like we're trying to make it functional.
Yeah, if you claim that you're training functional movements, like let's say CrossFitters are, then you should do movement patterns that are functional or movements or exercises that actually translate to functional movements. So if you look at CrossFit, even though there are back squats, there's not a lot of workouts that require you to do a back squat in there. Right. I can't even think of a bench. Yeah, I was thinking one benchmark, CrossFit Total, maybe a couple hero workouts where there's like 135
No, I think
bench.
Most CrossFit gyms will just program a back squat day in there for the purpose of getting volume into your legs, like you were saying.
Yeah, just it's a lot of, you get a lot of weight.
So what are other ways that people can get their VMOs, their quads, their hams to get stronger without loading it with a barbell on their back of their neck?
Piston.
Okay.
The piston's what we use for a lot of people. The piston isn't, it's essentially you're doing the squat with the right muscles that we think is the right muscles, right? Where your VMO is.
We know. Come on, we're experts.
Well, I know. I just don't want to sound like a dickhead. It might be too late.
You already did, dude.
Yep.
And you open it up with back squats aren't safe, so.
Well, you shouldn't back squat. But anywho, so the pistons is just making sure you squat with the right muscles on both sides so you don't have imbalances. And you're also checking the depth and mobility, which is range of motion with the right muscles on. So, another thing with back squats in the internet world is everyone gives so much shit for anyone that posts a video. Quarter squat, half squatter. Yeah. Why even squat if you do half squats? That alone is another reason why you shouldn't back squat, because everyone's going to judge that movement for the power lift.
Yeah, if you're not asked to grass, it's not a real rep, but it's like if you're asked to grass with no tension in the right muscles.
What was your point in the first place?
Your ass is grass. Damn.
Ray Williams, that guy is strong as fuck.
Yeah.
Follow that guy. He's a power lifter, but he has a video. He talks about, like, I don't squat to parallel. That's how he says it. And then he was saying it's because he loves his knees. He's a power lifter. That's a sport. And he squats over 1,000 pounds, and then he says he saves that for the platform. I mean,
but he never practices it until he's on the platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he says. Because you only have X amount of, reps that low for your body to kind of spring and bounce up, and all that shit. But why though? Why? Because most people, when they get that low, it takes a lot of time to train strength at the end range, from what I've seen.
Where do you think the weakness is coming from, besides the muscles not being on?
So most people are taught how to squat with chest up, shoulders back and down, and then keep your core tight, which is so vague, and then they usually push their knees out to descend. Mm-hmm. So you can only load the outside quads for so long, right? And then when they drop at the bottom, they bounce out to kind of skip using the tension in the right muscles. They use a little stretch reflex or whatever, momentum, to get back into the quads again. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted to stay tension all the way down, you have to keep your VMOs, your medial hamstrings, your glutes all firing the whole time. And people don't squat that way, so trying to get down there to use it.
And that's what we're trying to teach on a piston, right? So I would say, can I nerd out for a second?
Do it.
Okay. Can I throw big words out?
I'll simplify it for myself.
Simplify it for those listening at home. Biomechanically, the hips aren't hip hinging. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line, right? Like, if I have someone coming in with tight hip flexors, tight quads, which quads are part of your hip flexors, and you drop into the hole, I don't care if you go quarter squat or 90 degrees, and your hips are doing all the work, and you're not engaging the back of your glute, the inside of your hamstring. Obliques. Why? I think hip instability. So we were talking earlier about the adductor thing, right? So why do the adductors turn on at 90 degrees or full squat and not the hamstring? Well, what part of the hamstring? There's two parts of your hamstring, but we're talking about the inside hamstring, right? Yeah. That's part of your adductors as well. So that tells me if that's a deficient muscle, that you have hip instability and you're squatting on one unstable hip and one stable hip.
What was the post you're showing me? What was the context of, like, the adductors need to be stronger, or?
No, it's telling you the adductors need to be on in a full squat. So the study is posted by Steffi Cohen if you go on her page. Adductors are what are recruited in a full squat, not your hamstrings, because I think in the fitness world they'll tell you when you hip hinge back, it's to engage your hamstring. But what we've gone over in FixFit especially is the inside hamstring needs to be on, which is connected to a lot of groin, which is your adductors. So those are the muscles that actually are strengthening, and that's what her study is showing on MRI, which is a gold standard. Like if you MRI rectus femoris in your hamstring versus the adductor magnus, whatever you want to get nerdy about, the adductor is growing in that. But why is it growing? Because you're getting hip stability if you're squatting symmetrically.
And the thing is, when you're not even squatting the way that, like, the piston, they take that study out of context again. It's like, okay, the people that squat below parallel, their adductors are getting bigger. Yeah. Just because that shit's getting bigger didn't mean you
I should just do more of those?
Just like you fucking go ahead and assess in scientific data all the CrossFitters in the world. Yep. Their upper traps are fucking amazing. Right. So CrossFit exercises gives you upper traps. That's the science. You can't debunk that. But it doesn't mean that a push press, a wall ball and thruster, right, means in science that at the top of your press, top of your handstand push-up, this is an upper trap generated movement.
Yes.
it's bullshit because you're using it. And how are you going to take when people take small muscles that help out the big muscles, like the adductor, that's mind-blowing to me. It's like, how are you going to go all the way down in a super heavy back squat and say that the hamstring doesn't work? Because the adductor's lifting that 1,000 pounds that Ray Williams is squatting.
That's the thing, is that
it's defaulting to using the adductor that's growing because at the bottom of the range, it hasn't been trained to stay on.
So here's where the disconnect is. That as a provider or as a coach or as someone programming for somebody
or a nerd, if you're trying to get stronger adductors to make you stronger at the bottom of the squat,
do more full range squats.
Okay. Right? That right there is already like, you lost everyone. Trying to get people to figure out first and foremost, what the fuck's an adductor, and then two, how to strengthen the adductor. Like,
exactly. So that's why they give out that study and you let the general public debate it
and digest that, right?
What? And that's what we were talking about earlier.
The comments in that post or thread is all about.
Is it quarter squat? Is it full squat? Is it high bar or is it low bar? What the hell do I do now? Which one do I fix?
Quarter squats gets you stronger? No, full squats gets you strong. It's like, that's not the point.
What we do is say, you're not. That's proving to us that nobody's hip hinging because our hips are so damn tight. We're not engaging that medium hip. How are we going to turn that on? You're going to stand on one leg and do a single leg piston now.
Yeah.
And you're going to find it yourself. Yeah. Right? That's where we can break it down to be like, all right, let us nerd out and figure out the biomechanics, all that shit. Your job is just to stand on one leg and see if you can hip hinge back. And I guarantee you can't without holding on to something. Right?
Yep, for sure. That's the easy way. The concepts that we're trying to do is shared so that everyone can do this. We want this to reach the masses. And when you get down in any type of squat pattern, any type of squat movement, we want these big muscles to be on your hamstrings, the inside, your glutes, your obliques, and that's it.
Yep.
We don't want to confuse it with all these, fake signs. It's not even fake signs, but when I say fake signs, what I mean is anything that you take because the mechanics have not been explained simply, then it can be taken out of context.
Exactly. That's all it is.
So these science things that they're throwing out there is like confusing the shit out of people. Right. Now people think it's an adductor workout.
See, you keep throwing me into these nerdy. I'm trying to break it.
You started that shit. You said adductor and I got all pissed.
Medial hammy. That works better for you. Inside hamstring.
We call it the carnitas. I don't even know actually. We label whatever the hell we label it at our gym. Now I think the carnitas is the teres, and then now carne asada is the lat because it's the bigger.
Yeah, the carne asada would be that stretched out lat.
Right?
Yeah.
The flat meat.
Yeah. I think some people in the gym got those two mixed up. We got to get real specific on it.
They need to get better at their fucking taco shop meats. That's what it is. We need an al pastor, some adobado. But okay, I'm gonna just kind of close out that part because people do need a back squat for certain things like powerlifting and certain strength programs, or whatever. So we'll talk about that. But again, the whole idea is if you're doing a back squat, if you're doing a program for strength and conditioning and you have a sport you're training for, you should stop back squatting because there's too much risk, too much wear and tear in your body. You're training your body in a pattern where it's not functional, as in you're using the wrong muscles to do a movement like a squat or to produce force with your hips that you wouldn't see in your sport. If you play soccer, jiu-jitsu, you hike, you surf, or whatever it is. So I would recommend doing pistons because you don't have a bar in your back, so you don't have to get into the wrong muscles.
And if you want to get stronger with a piston, add a sandbag.
And if you're doing it for your sport, what we have found for CrossFitters that are lifting, whatever, we're trying to deadlift a ton of weight, 400 or 500 pounds in back squat, the pistons are more than enough to get you to activate to keep you healthy for your sport.
Right.
So the pistons, you can go even one leg.
Still a quick hack.
Exactly.
Quick hack to turn it on.
Because your goal is to get stronger for your sport.
Right.
If you can do a lot of pistons daily, one leg, two leg, both legs, that's more than enough.
Right.
You can add a slam ball or sandbag to it to make it to get stronger. But in reality, most sports don't require that much amount of strength for any particular movement, right?
So if you guys had a football player or an MMA guy in there or MMA, we have MMA.
Especially any sport that requires a weight limit, like the weight matters, like jiu-jitsu or wrestling, there's a weight classes. There's no reason for them to be going that heavy. I'd like to just do a lot of activation drills to keep their body functional and be strong.
If you want to overload it, you got sled push, bear crawl with a harness on, and that way you're not loading your spine anymore.
Yep.
But you're still engaging those VMOs, glutes, hamstrings, and those will fatigue muscle-wise, and then your ego dies, and then your soul dies.
Yeah,
way before your spine dies.
Because you get the conditioning and strength is what most athletes are looking for, not just
you do
5-3-1s and the superset drop sets. It's like that has nothing to do with your sport.
Linear progressions on your back squat. It's like that's for a power lifter. That's for an Olympic lifter to gain strength for sitting at the bottom of a squat with weight over their head or clean, right? But it's like if you're a football player and you're just trying to get stronger and better shape, freaking get on a
move sleds all day long.
Move sleds
all day long.
Yeah, get in a harness and bear crawl until you die.
45 sprint angle, the tackle angle, the everything.
Yeah. It's not only good for your aerobic capacity, but it's good for your injury prevention too.
Yep, there's less wear and tear in the joints, and that's one of the pet peeves of a back squat is that even though you don't feel the pain, you're doing damage. And I've seen so many people and athletes, CrossFitters, weightlifters, whatever, their knees are like one lift away from being fucked.
Right.
And we've seen it.
Yep.
And it happens, and then when it happens, it's like too late.
Debilitating.
The reason why we're bringing this up too is because I see a lot of the people that I have met with, assessed, and helped out, and then on their Instagram or whatever, they're doing all these back squats. And I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that?
And you're not posting it unless you're asked to grass, man. You don't want to be called out.
Yeah, I'm not.
Come on now.
It's just, I'm here to hopefully save an injury or two and get people back. But if I'm working with someone to help them with their lower back, their hip pain or their knee, and all of a sudden they're still going back because they feel better and they're doing all these back squats, knees out, chest up, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? What just happened? The fuck is going on?
We can go over intention too on your accessory work with FixFit stuff, because I was one that right before my vacation I was like, I want to get better at the back squat. I want to get better at my depth, because we did CrossFit Total. I wasn't happy with how my squat felt. I wasn't happy with the way it came up. I wasn't happy about depth. All these above. So it's like when I get back, I really want to work on that. But I came back with tight hips. Lower back didn't necessarily hurt, but it was stiff, right? And it was like, Mark, my right hip's pinching. And you're like, do pistons, obviously, right? Just like we're saying. I get on both legs, and I'm like, I can feel my VMOs, I can feel my glutes. And then you're like, add a sandbag. And it was a Sunday, and I did sandbag squats.
You weren't hinging.
This is what I'm getting at. 7 reps every minute for 10 minutes. I really like that 7 rep marker, if anybody wants to try it, for a sandbag squat, because it's like right around 5, you get your burn, and then like those last 2, you got to really, really keep those muscles on. And then for 10 minutes, EMOM every minute, those last like 3 sets, you really got to keep them on, right? But it's not enough to like break you.
Yeah,
it's still a good like intermediate warm up, I guess.
We need to drive the car so you see what's wrong with it.
Yes,
that's what I tell people. It's a control test. That's
perfect way to put it.
I need you to go a little bit, because if you stay to fucking just a 10-pound ball the whole time and you're moving slow as fuck and you're not actually moving.
7 is the freaking magic number for that, because 5 is not enough in my opinion.
What weight were you using? It was like 70 or 90?
No, I was using the big sandbag on this one.
Oh, so the 135.
135 sandbag, and I was like, I feel my glutes, I feel my VMOs, I feel my obliques, I feel my pecs even.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, and then you said, why the hell were you standing? My torso was upright.
Yeah, you weren't doing it right.
I wasn't hip hinging at all. I had nothing in my hamstrings, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened later that day? We go to squat, my right hip's pinching still. And then I'm like, Mark, my hip's pinching. And it's like, okay, do your pistons again, but on one leg. And then I go on my right leg, and I cannot, with the right hip is the one that's pinching, I cannot hip hinge back on it and keep those muscles on.
You couldn't feel the hamstring turn on for the life of you?
No.
0. You
Nothing.
Tried.
Nothing. And so the next week we come back, and I'm just like hitting these one-legged pistons like a madman, just holding onto a post too, not fatiguing it, just trying to get that neurological, like, can all these muscles fire when I want them to. And then a piston. And then I went back to the sandbags again, concentrate on hip hinging back, and I was like, oh shit, I don't feel my hip anymore. There's nothing there. Yeah. And then we go, I think we did a sandbag. I don't think I barbell back squatted. Oh no, I did. I barbell back squatted that Friday, and after working on it all week, and did some pistons with a barbell on my back. So there's another way. If I could do pistons body weight and feel those muscles on, I put a barbell on my back, and I did barbell pistons at a lighter weight.
Yeah.
To just practice that technique of set up, get low, drive those muscles, And then I did some singles at the end with no hip pinch. And my hip pinch has pretty much been gone even throughout like my daily life. It was never pain, but it's annoying when you're like, I'm working on this, and it's affecting my life in terms of walking up
discomfort.
And down. Yeah, it's just annoying to be like, dude, I'm working on this. Why isn't it shutting off? What am I doing wrong? I'm not hip hinging there. So, but I didn't know that until I put it under a lot of tension with both feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. Then one leg with no tension, just one leg standing on it, holding onto a post, and I'm like, I can't feel shit. Yep. In fact, you find the weak link like that.
And then at least the idea is at least you know you're looking for the weak link, the cause. You're not just trying to do a 90-90 or hip flexor stretch to dig out your psoas using a right, and then doing a lot of mobility for the hip, right? You right away went to the mindset, which is what we want to share and educate, is that hip hurts. Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from?
Yes.
And we didn't figure it out right away. You had to do a couple of drills. We thought it was the glute, and then we did sandbags. Wasn't the glute. Then we found out it was the medial hamstring. And then once you figure that out, it took you a couple sessions, and then now you're able to back squat without pain because you like to back squat.
Right. And I want to get better at it.
If you like to back squat, I'm not saying to not do it. That's just a different intent now. Now you have to learn how to back squat and train the right muscles for a back squat for longevity purposes.
Now, do I want to run out and do CrossFit Total this week? You know, if I'm feeling right, maybe. But it's like, even if I was feeling right, should I do that? No. Hell no. Like, you found it, start building on it, right? Like, start working.
I like the back squat. That's just my thing. And it's for Olympic lifting and CrossFit, you know, and powerlifting. And then during my 500-pound deadlift training, I turned into a powerlifter, so I back squatted just as much as I deadlift or bench. And my low bar back squat, or I just call it a regular back squat, how powerlifters do it, it went from 350 lifetime, and maybe on average 330 or something, right?
And training to parallel, I remember too.
Training to parallel, and then on the CrossFit Total Day or the 4th of July lifting event, I didn't want to jeopardize, even for me, what Ray Williams talked about, I still didn't want to jeopardize going past parallel because my focus is the deadlift.
Right. Yeah, what's the point?
But I got up there and hit a 400-pound back squat to parallel easily. If I needed it to count in a comp for a CrossFit Total or whatever, I could have just dropped down a hair lower because I was right at parallel. It was really close anyways.
Yeah. But who cares?
But I'm still, what the point I'm trying to make is I got strong as fuck back squatting for powerlifting.
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing this back squat to make my deadlift stronger.
It did zero when I came out of that. Back squatting 400, deadlifting 500, went back to CrossFit. My front squat was 135, felt like things were ripping.
Right.
But so my point is, I'm just getting really good at back squatting because I like to. Mm-hmm. But that was it. In terms of me being more athletic, being a faster runner, being whatever you claim that the barbell back squat's going to give you, it's not true. I was just really fucking good at back squatting for me. So
there I don't doubt that there are people that, I have some buddies that I just like squatting for my leg strength, and I throw it in my leg day, but I still tell them you should still become a student of it because you should always get under that bar with a little bit of respect for it, right?
Yeah.
And just like a deadlift too, I love deadlifting too, but every time you walk up with 400 plus pounds on the bar, you're like, I have to respect this right now.
Maybe the issue is that people don't realize it's a problem until
they're hurt. Yep.
Or it gets to the point where they plateau. So what I mean is when you start back squatting with empty bar, maybe 95 pounds, you're like, you don't feel shit.
Right.
I mean, it's a struggle because your primary goal when you first lifting is A to B. You go down, you get up. That's it. Below parallel, back up to full lockout. And then you're not going to feel any pain because your body could withstand a lot of shitty movement patterns. Mm-hmm. You can rely on your quads and your lower back for a long time.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you tweak your back on 225 and you're like, what the fuck? Or you tweak your knee.
Yep.
And then still people aren't thinking about what's causing it. They're just like, it's a freak accident, bro.
I hate hearing that all the time.
Freak accident, bro.
I have guys all the time, I tweaked my lower back deadlifting a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and I will never do it again, I promise you. And I'm like, I want you to do it.
Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Please do it. Oh no, I just back squat now. I'm like, back squat is the way more at-risk movement. Let's work on that, and then when you feel like you have the glutes on and your core is getting a little bit stronger under the bar, you're definitely a great candidate to go back to deadlifting, and we could translate those same muscle mechanics over to that.
Yeah. It's like what's your goal? Don't just avoid it. You're running away from your problems.
Right.
What causes the pain when you are deadlifted is not going to fix itself just because you switch the exercise.
Right.
Your mechanical faults, the muscles that weren't working. Let's say your glutes aren't working. Mm-hmm. That's why you hurt your back on a deadlift. So then you go to a different lower body lift. You think your glutes going to work magically? No.
Exactly.
You're still going to use your quads because your quads got really strong.
It's a freak accident. I didn't stretch enough that day. I went to the gym kind of tight.
Deadlifts are dangerous anyways.
They're already dangerous, so I might as well just stay away from them. Mm-hmm. Yep. And
I'll use a trap bar or something different.
It's unfortunate because it's like if you really wanted to get functionally stronger for life, you should be doing those two movements. There's a reason that the barbell back squat, front squat, a clean, a deadlift, farmer's carries, bench, those are just functional movements for life, period. No matter what weight you're doing. But if you do them with the right muscles on, it translates over so fast. Like if you're doing yard work, I was digging a trench this weekend, I was like, dude, I could totally see why my patients come in all the time.
And they're like, oh, my back, my neck.
I was just putting in a rose bush in the backyard, and I tweaked my SI joint. I can't turn my neck today. My shoulder hurt. I'm like, I totally get it, dude. It is, like, if you're not doing that all the time for a living, you know, like I see those laborers guys too, those construction workers, like, they just constantly are doing it. They know no differently. But to anybody else that's just like, oh, yeah, I weight lift. I'm pretty healthy. Let me just go dig up this hole. It's like, dude, it is really hard on your body unless those muscles are trained. So it's like you should do those movements to be strong. And if you get strong, you're going to have a lot less issues. You'll be a lot less, minor tweaks aren't going to be debilitating to you.
And everyone knows lifting's fun. People listening, everyone's going to be like, I'm going to back squat because I like to. And I always made the analogy, it's like, the sport of Olympic weightlifting, when you're like 30, I think, you're done.
Yeah.
There's no
the wear and tear on your joints.
And there is a small community of people that do masters competitions.
Right.
That's not a big population, right?
Right. But
the powerlifting world, you'll see people are lifting in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and there's a ton of them. The worlds and stuff. It's because those movements are still, from that point of view, it's less dynamic. It's not as fast. And if you learn to do it properly, like a deadlift or a back squat, then you have less wear and tear,
I just think that there are people that hate leg day. I mean, they're like, I'll go do it, and I know I should squat because it's good for my leg, but they hate it. So if they do tweak themselves with it, it's like an excuse to not go back to it. And that's the problem with self-programming for yourself, in my opinion. Like, if I didn't have CrossFit Sun to go to, I'd probably be one of those people buying one of those programs online, going like, oh, I got to do this to myself in the gym for some kind of community accountability, I should say.
It makes sense because when I went to the gym before CrossFit, I was like a gym rat, so I go 6 days a week, 24-hour fitness, probably an hour and a half a session. But I stopped benching because I was tired from my shoulder, the front of my shoulder to stop hurting. Right. You only want to tweak something for so many times, like the barbell bench is dumb. I did dumbbell bench.
Right.
So that's
exactly.
You evolve, right?
Oh, maybe I'll hack squat then.
Who the fuck's gonna keep running their head in the wall and be like, I deadlift every time I deadlift, I hurt my back. Why would you deadlift?
Why don't I just hack squat then? Because then I don't have as much axial load on my low back. They use a hacks machine or a hack machine. Hack.
It's the thing with the shoulder pads on your shoulders and you squat like you're pushing into a tackle or something.
Because you do hip hinge on those things. You have to get so low.
Because they set you in the technically the position that you should do.
But is that going to translate over to a barbell back squat? Hell no.
Yeah.
What's the other one? I just read a good post too about people saying like glute lab stuff. Brett Contreras stuff. Like he's showing like if you have a healthy butt, it's defining that you're in good shape. So people are doing a lot. It's very popular right now for my patients is like hip thrusts, and they'll do those to get their glutes to engage instead of the back squat. Because it's like, hey, I'm not doing a barbell anymore. Now the barbell's on the front of my hips, and I'm humping the air instead. Your favorite. And hey, I can feel my glutes on. And my quads are working a little bit. So make sure I just add calf raises, and I got myself a leg day. That's not functional.
That's the whole argument of CrossFit, right? It's not functional. You're isolating, and we're taking it one step further.
Right.
In what we just discovered, it's like we realized no CrossFitters have lats, so we did a lot of lat work. But again, you're just getting really good at those hip thrusts. Just like we were getting really strong. I was getting super strong and doing barbell bent over rows, great. And then a lot of the members, it's like our big lab, it's like your deadlift's not improving. Your back might
nothing's
still go
working
up.
in the chain.
But we've been doing so many different types of single arm bent over rows and holds and pauses and got heavier.
And same thing, like, sorry to go back one more time, the sled, no one's ever getting better at those.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everybody dies equally on that all the time with the right muscles on, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's like, you won't get better at those because you're actually putting the stimulus into the right areas. And it's just, you can't move that much mass around for that long until you get it blown up.
And there's a reason why you train and you test, right? And so that's why no one ever tracks sled times. Like, we're not out there timing you, like, you have to be 4 seconds faster.
We should.
But it's not the intent of the exercise. And there's going to be a point where I'm starting to talk to a lot of athletes and CrossFitters where it's like, you just have to figure out now how much of this homework do you have to do. Right, to balance out the amount of activity you want to do.
Right.
So that's it. So if you do sleds once a week and everything's fine, then that might be it. So that's kind of like the use of the sled. The sled isn't there to be like, oh shit, every week I should add a plate.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're doing this exercise again, going back to the intent. You're doing this sled just to keep everything firing, not as much wear and tear in my joints, and then now I can keep playing baseball or I can keep doing CrossFit without pain.
Yep.
That was the case that we're talking about. And then now going back to the glute bridge, drills don't mean anything until you apply it to movement. So you're getting really good at firing your glutes. So there might be some carryover.
They grow, man. They get bigger.
They do get bigger.
Peaches.
That's fine.
Great.
If that's the pure intent, then keep doing them. But if that's...
They're better in yoga pants, and they're like, I'm stronger now.
But your lower back's going to hurt when you move.
I'm like, why are you here for an SI sprain then? Or SI dysfunction, let's call it.
That's pretty funny because then they'll be like, oh, I do all these glute bridges, and you're like, well, you're fucked up in here.
I can feel it in my glutes, and my lower back's a little tight, but that's fine. But why is my hip hurt? It's like, because you're even doing hip ups without the right from the ground up. You know what I mean? Like, their feet are pointed out like ducks, and they're not using any hamstring to kind of get that hip up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, you can at least point your toes forward, drive off the ground, squeeze your glutes, and get it away from your lower back on those.
Fire your obliques, maybe? Lower abs?
Maybe. That's asking for too much. But I was like, you still got to get back into a squatting pattern of some sort. And we like the pistons to start with.
Because that's more functional to what you're trying to train for.
So would you say our take-home message is, if we're not going to back squat, because let's say you're rehabbing, I got somebody right now I could think of, rehabbing from a hip surgery, if we told that person, we don't want you back squatting with a barbell again, even though that is your goal, we want you to start at a piston, both feet on the ground, squat down low, hold it about quarter way or halfway.
That's all. You can only go down. Okay, I'm trying to sum it up.
And hanging onto a post of some sort?
We usually hang on the post, because especially coming off surgeries or big injuries or they're currently hurt, just in case, right? But here's your first indicator of depth, which people coin mobility, I guess, right? Yeah. Flexibility, whatever people call it. So you are going to only go down in your squat, letting your knees and hips bend at the same rate. So you're not just doing butt back and overextending. You're not just using quads. So your knees and hips taking down the same rate. The caveat is you're checking to make sure you have to make sure your obliques are on, lower abs as well, but really just the oblique. Because that's what holds, that's like the bridge to your upper and lower body. That's the way I explain it. So if your obliques are on, your lower back's not taking the force. So when you're squatting, how low you should go is, number one, how well your oblique can stay on, I guess, or once your oblique turns off, pushing in with your fingers to the sides, if they like all of a sudden turn off and you're only at a quarter, then guess what? You should only go to a quarter.
If you just initiated the squat and you're mushy, that's bad.
Then you do
stay there.
Prone movement, like laying down. You do core workouts, planks, even walking.
Or start on your back.
A lot of times I started to rebuild a lot of people that have really bad knee and hip issues, really bad. I just get them to learn how to stand and walk with their obliques on, because your hip is bending when you walk. But it's like that's the level they're at. Right. So how low they should go is obliques on, and then once you figure that how to keep the core on, then you can start adding onto it. It's like, don't just forget your obliques now. Now we check off the big muscles, the movers. So we're learning, like with the lats and the pecs and like a deadlift, There's muscles you need to learn first, in my opinion, that should stay on in a static flex, right? Isometric flex. So the obliques aren't really pulling up and down like your bicep works in a curl, right?
Right.
Just like the lat, it's not doing a bent over row. It's holding your back from bending, so it's staying still, but it's flexed. So the oblique, you have to train things like that because that is what keeps everything together.
Stable. Yeah.
Stable. And then we talk about the movers, you know? When you're loading on a squat coming down, it's really the inside hammy and the VMOs that absorb a lot of the force.
VMOs inside knee, teardrop muscle.
And then your inside hammy, and then the glutes really at the bottom and at the finish of the lift to really drive an upward.
So let's say this person I'm thinking of, the surgery was over a year ago. So now we're talking, okay, they're more than halfway down.
Okay.
Or let's say they're more than a quarter way down. They're about half, about almost 90. And they're like, I don't feel anything in my right glute. At that point, we can say, squeeze that right glute, fire that right oblique, push harder in there, and do a couple reps like that, little quarter reps, right, to drive yourself up. But then we would say, now go one leg at a time, right? So I personally like to start on the left leg to know how it feels. So I'd be like, go on your left leg first, bring your right leg in the air, hip hinge back on that left leg, and see, do I have my VMO, my quad, my glute on, my oblique on? They're like, okay, I got 10 reps, that felt good. Now go to your right side, the bad one. And they go, oh shit, I can't even sit back yet without tension anywhere.
And that's it.
That's there's your problem.
That's where you live.
Boom, live right there.
And then, like you said, his goal or her goal, whoever it is to back squat again. So then after you do those drills, now you are going to apply the mechanics to that type of back squat.
Yes.
So you can do what we call barbell pistons. That's what I use to get strong for my powerlifting journey. But I was essentially doing pistons with the bar on my back, firing the same muscles. So now the drills don't just stop at a piston for him.
Yep.
Because his goal isn't to be, pistons isn't his joy or his love. He wants a back squat.
You do sandbag.
Yeah, but it's a controlled test, right? So you put a bar in an empty bar, 15-pound bar,
sure.
PVC. After you do your pistons, you're like, okay, remember all those muscles, they both work now, both sides. Now let's get under a bar. And then if he does it and he can play around with it, there's no pain, and he's getting those muscles to fire, then good. He's back squatting at empty bar now.
Yep.
Then he's going to work his depth because he probably wants to go lower, making sure those muscles are on.
Yep.
Then he
But the right muscles are helping you go down and up rather than that surgically repaired right hip.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, that's what's blocking me. Oh, my hip flexor is all damaged and cut on this side. That's what's damaging me. You still have, law of physics. That glute max is way bigger than that psoas muscle and TFL is on the front.
Yeah.
So you're going to recruit the hell out of that thing. Your oblique is way bigger than, the top of your TFL. Like, it's just simple that way. So there's no, maybe your surgery might enable you from getting back to your PR really, really quickly, but you're never going to get to that even close
if you don't rebuild.
Right. If you don't rebuild those bigger muscles.
No, it's the people that come in really fucked up, really injured. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
The blessing is that you get immediate feedback right away. Because then if someone with knee issues, it's like right when they're out of position or not using the right muscle, the pain's like lights up. It's like a perfect coach.
Yep.
And then the issue is that you have a lot of imbalances you've created, compensating you've created. Who knows
what PT did with this person?
I don't know, kind of PT or
it got them full range of motion back and back to carrying their son, and it's like, cool, but I want a barbell back squat again. And this person doesn't even have a PR. They just want a barbell back squat for leg day again. And it's like...
And I could see, like, I've seen a lot of really bad cases, really, really bad, multiple surgeries, you name it, right? Replacements even, but if they know what they're working towards, it doesn't take long for them to hit that goal of I just want to squat without pain.
Right.
They just have to follow a couple concepts or rules like, hey, only go down as far as you can with the right muscles on.
Right.
Simple rule. Common sense. Because then, you're back squatting. Maybe you're going right above parallel.
Yeah.
You should be happy about that because you wanted a back squat.
Because you don't have pain.
You don't have pain. You're doing it. And your muscles are all firing. But for some fucking reason, people are really impatient. And two, they don't think that that's the type of training they used to do.
And we're trying to prevent this person from being like, I stopped barbell back squatting, which I love to do in my workouts at 24 hour because of my surgery. Yeah. Which that surgery was from an accident, like out of this person's control, a car accident, right? Or whatever, football, sports injury, it doesn't matter. If anything like that happens, you can't, we hate hearing people say that all the time. Like, I don't do that anymore because it's...
The whole mission is to keep you doing what you love.
Yes.
That's it. So if you want a back squat, you can't. There's ways around any type of injury limitations. Dude. So on and so forth. We have so many crazy extreme injuries or extreme cases, but they're still moving.
This was good stuff. This was really good. I think we hit a lot, and we can come back and do. Hopefully, people give us feedback and go, "What about a front squat? What about a low bar versus a high bar? What about how can these? What about a clean? What about for me
Snatch.
Personally? I want to front squat and clean and back squat more so I can clean better. How does that translate? And we can go nerd out on that another time. But for this is just a little
the intent of squatting.
Right.
Why are you squatting? And is the squatting helping you do what you love?
Right.
And if you are going to squat, there's ways to do it where you can squat with a couple little rules so that you can keep squatting forever, and it'll just take you time. If you want to go ass to grass every single squat, I'm not saying it's not good for you. Like I said, if you want to take the tests, you got to do your homework. So you have to work on keeping those hammies on, keeping your obliques on when you are ass to grass. If not, a lot of Olympic lifting that I used to do, we were taught that bounce at the end, the bottom, because you need it. Mm-hmm. But my knees were constantly in pain.
Yep.
And that's why there's no Olympic lifters that are pro at 40.
You know what?
And that's young.
You were probably lacking ankle mobility. You should have just got better dorsiflexion.
You joke around about that, but you know how much ankle mobility WOD we did back in the day with bands
That's what I'm joking about.
With floss bands, every fucking thing.
It's just because my ankles are kind of tight. Do I need different shoes?
I mean, think about you're supposed to bounce out of the hole.
Ugh.
And
I was always scared of hips. I've always been about hips and SI joint. So when I saw the term bounce out of hole, knees out stuff, I was just thinking those hips are getting wrenched in there.
The SIs
and I saw a lot of... Well, the SIs are getting blown up, but then, the actual labrum in that hip is just wrenched. And it wears out just like a meniscus would wear out in your knee. Or an ACL would tear.
Isn't that weird where it's you're not strong at the bottom? Let's use more momentum, more force.
Right.
In common sense, not even nerd out, but you're not strong down there.
Mm-mm.
Shouldn't you build strength down there and then control yourself up and down before you start adding momentum, speed, and force?
It would make sense. But it's 2019, dude. We're just on to our 2020 goals. Hey, instead of flexing your biceps, and this was a squat episode, you want to squeeze some peaches for the camera?
What does that even mean?
Just some back it up like this kind of stuff. I think people want to see the cakes.
I'll give him a VMO. Look at that guy. That guy's as big as my glute.
No, this is getting weird. Inappropriate. No, that was really good, man. I think it's a good little intro to squatting because I think...
All of a sudden, there's all these views on YouTube at the last 5 minutes. Everyone's jumping on to YouTube to see Cook's glutes.
I don't know, dude. You've been getting content blocked lately, so I don't want to mess with that again.
Fuck. Stop censoring me.
You're getting censored, and we're going to get kicked off YouTube.
If you have questions about squatting, deadlifting, any lifting really, but since it's a back squat episode, hit us up. That's pretty much it.
Sweet, man. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Gang.